Tonight, we have a multi-layer of conversation on this matter, and we will begin by speaking with the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, a government agency involved in communication and shaping public opinion, the impact of what the government has done in the last few days. Mr. Garba Abari joins us from our Abuja studio tonight. Thank you so much, Mr. Abari, for joining us tonight. And let's begin the conversation. You've seen the kind of outrage online and offline caused by the action of government to suspend Twitter. Even those who do not use Twitter are talking about it. That action has been tagged undemocratic. How do you defend that, DG?
Thank you very much, and a very good evening. Let us not get this fact lost on us. First, we must understand that we are in a constitutional democracy. And in a constitutional democracy, there are spelled out rules, regulations, processes, and procedures of doing things. What government had done is definitely in the larger interest of the Nigerian society. Basically because if you take the so-called offensive tweet or the tweet that Twitter said violates their code and put it in context, what is abusive about that tweet? Is it a fact or is it a lie that Nigeria fought a civil war? Is it a fact or is it a lie that in that civil war, millions of lives were lost, properties beyond which you cannot even quantify in material terms, in terms of loss of lives, loss of property, loss of man-hour, loss of infrastructure, loss, all of this. Is it a lie that Nigeria did not pass through all this? But is it a lie also that when you are on the Twitter, because I am always on Twitter, and I see the kind of hate that is being played out on the social media, and especially on Twitter, by young men and women, who actually correctly, as the president has said, do not know the history of the country, where the country is coming from, and therefore where we are headed, and are trying, either deliberately or out of ignorance, or as conduits of certain forces, to tweet things that largely have far-reaching security implications for this country. I think contextually, Twitter, if it had done its homework, would have seen that there was actually nothing harmful from what this president has said. Because whatever it is that had been said, put it into context, it is nothing but a certain, absolutely certain, and a graphic summary of the Nigerian experience during the Civil War, which no Nigerian would want to have a repeat of. So in this respect, therefore, I feel government is right, government is in order. First and foremost, the country has to exist. We must have to have a country first before we would have a Twitter. We must have to have a country that is peaceful and secure before we have a before we have people with tweet handles. We have to have a country that is about that is by and large now, concerned about the restoration of peace and order in the society, given all the challenges that we are passing through. This is a major distraction which the nation cannot afford, and therefore the government had taken the right, correct decision within the context of what is obtained in the constitutional democracy.
Because like you mentioned, we are in a constitutional democracy, and one of the pillars of that is the ability to have conversation around what we disagree with, and sometimes what we agree with, sometimes we disagree to agree or agree to disagree. Let me ask you, do you understand how deleting a tweet works, or how the Twitter microblogging site works in terms of the algorithm that is being used in this sense. Do you understand, Mr. Abari?
Why do you have to ask me that?
I'm asking because
the point is simple.
So that we can. So because the next question I'm going to ask you,
the issue is simple. The issue is simple. Whether I know what are the processes involved in deleting a tweet or I do not, the fact still remains that a tweet has been made, like I have always done, and what usually they say should be done should be something like, if you find a problem with you or someone disagreeing or being abusive on a tweet, on your Twitter handle, you complain to Twitter and they take the necessary action. But in the case of what has happened, nobody complains about anything because it is just a regular thing that is being said. In fact, worse things have been said on Twitter without Twitter pulling down these kind of messages. So what's the problem?
Well, I'm not sure Twitter has said that nobody complained, because what we understand that works with Twitter is that there is usually a protest that leads to this kind of, the complaint, a protest against some messages, and then the microblogging site will pull down as the case may be, just like we saw, we've seen severally. But let me quickly ask you, you heard
But what I'm still saying is, does that statement in any way contradict the realities of the Nigerian the Nigerian situation? Does it harm anybody? Does it abuse anybody? Did it bully anybody? There was no any case of bully. There was no any abusive language that was deployed in that tweet. In fact, whatever that was said in that tweet was an actual factual succinct capture of the reality of the Nigerian situation. Look, young men and women who do not know where we are coming from, please do not do things that will take us back to the days of old, when we had to be gnashing our teeth and be actually and be reduced to biting our fingers. Because this is what we went through, and we are, as much as possible, trying to avoid a repeat of this very unpleasant, very objectionable reality. So what is the harm in that?
Mr. Abari, let me quickly put this in, because you said you also follow the conversation on Twitter, and these are some of the reactions that I also monitored and followed. Part of the conversation was the offense some people took, some people from the Southeast extraction who felt like the statement of the president came at a point where they are remembering those who died in the Civil War. Do you think that message perhaps fell at the wrong side of those who are from that part of the country?
I don't want to talk about what is happening in the Southeast. I don't want to talk about it. It's a very unfortunate situation that is happening. I don't want to talk about it because I am still studying what the situation is there. I'm looking at motives. I'm looking at directions. I'm looking at outcomes. I'm looking at so many things before I can conclusively make comments on what is happening in the Southeast.
Because I'm leaving that premise because that is perhaps what angered some people, according to them, which led to the protest. But let me ask you, based on your work, you head an organization that manages disseminate information, coordinate, and help shape public opinion. How do you do that in this digital age?
Of course, we do it in so many ways. Twitter is one of them. Twitter is one of the handles that we...
So what is the impact?
Twitter is...
So it leads me to the next question. So what impact is the suspension of Twitter going to have on you discharging your responsibility to the public in this digital age?
It is a collateral damage that we must have to bear with, but it cannot be taken as more important than our national well-being and national security.
Well, again, there have been
reactions. It doesn't stop us from carrying out our functions. So it is only one wing. It is only one aspect of our as our social media. It's only one aspect of our social media engagement platforms. And if it is a collateral damage, I think we can bear that collateral damage with bearing in mind that there are larger national security interests that will be better protected without Twitter.
So there have been reactions from several parts of the world over the federal government's decision to suspend Twitter in Nigeria. Don't you think that this step might further reinforce the criticism of this government in some quarters that it is intolerant to voices of dissent, and perhaps those accusations that this government is dictatorial in its tendencies and in its actions?
Say it in what aspect are you putting that? Protest nationally or protest from the international community? If it is protest nationally, it is expected because we are in a constitutional democracy, and therefore we expect opposition. When the PDP comes out to condemn the action, you know, it is expected. We didn't expect less. It should come definitely from them, because this is what they feel is all they are out to do, in order to remain relevant on the political space. So if that is the context in which you are putting the protest, I will take it as a normal practice in a constitutional democracy for people to have their say. And this, even if their say undermines national interest, great national interest and the national security. But I want you to remember that whatever it is, we need to have a country first. We are all concerned about what is happening in the country today. Everybody is concerned. And what government is trying to do is actually, in addition to deploying security operations all over the country, it is also engaging in some other complementary activities and the measures to ensure that greater consultation and the dialogue is taking place, so that people see that there is the need for this country to remain one united country without peaceful country. Without peace and security, there will be no Nigeria. And those who feel that when the katakata begins, listen. So those who feel that when the katakata begins, they can observe this thing from the comfort of their living rooms, they are definitely, I want to tell you, they are mistaken. Because even to get to the airport, for them to fly out and meet their godfathers outside the country will be an impossibility to them.
So, because the question I'm asking, for those who think, and I've criticized this government, that's the part where I wanted you to talk about. Those who criticize this government as against voices of dissent, and those who think that freedom of speech is endangered under this government. Don't you think, because you manage PR for this government, you manage public opinion to the Nigerian people, and you know what people were saying, and some of those who have criticized that this government, in their tendencies, there are dictatorial tendencies. Those are the kind of criticism. Doesn't this action also reinforce those kind of narrative?
I am not, and I repeat, I am not expecting a 100% endorsement of this government. Because to do that is actually to expect an impossibility. But let me throw this question back to you. You are a journalist. You operate within the environment, within the context of the Nigerian environment. You operate in the political space. You know how the social space in Nigeria also operates and is run. Tell me in all honesty if there is any encumbrance. If there is any encumbrance that has been put on your way in the discharge of your duty, you as one journalist, or indeed in the discharge of your duty or the operations of channels as a television station, or indeed any other television station, newspaper house, or even a blogging site. Just tell me.
Mr. Abari, unfortunately, I'm not permitted by the ethics of my profession to answer questions. I'm empowered to ask the question. So, as my guest, You are the one constitutionally
Okay, but
given the right
but I am
to
telling you.
answer the
Okay,
question.
I am telling you that I'm not expecting a 100% endorsement of this government. I am not. To do that is an impossibility. But I am telling you that this government, as far as things go, respects freedom of speech, respects constitutional rights of every citizen to express his or him or herself, and of course, but of course, within the ambits of the law. The freedom for free speech does not give you the right to undermine large national interests.
And so
And
if
there
I may,
are laws and orders to do that. That is why I told you that this is a constitutional democracy with laws, with processes, with procedures of the things.
so what offense would anyone caught? Because the Office of the Attorney General has released a statement, a stern one, on the use of Twitter in Nigeria. What offense would anybody caught would said to have committed, and under what law would they be prosecuted?
I am not a lawyer. I do not know under what law they will be prosecuted, but definitely coming from the Office of the Attorney General, I want to think, therefore, that there does exist a situation, or there does exist a law that gives the office or the Attorney General's office the power to do that. Otherwise, they wouldn't just sit down and they wake up from their sleep, and they issue out such an order. I am not a lawyer, but definitely, if there are laws, then such laws must be there before the Attorney General makes that statement.
Someone said this, and perhaps let me put it as a question. Don't you think it will be going too far prosecuting people because of usage of social media? There's no social media law bill yet passed. Would it be right for the government of the day to prosecute anyone for the use of social media?
It will not be right for the government to prosecute anybody for the use of social media, but it is within the context, within the constitutional duties and rights of government to prosecute anybody whose use of social media contravenes the set rules as encapsulated in the laws. Of course, you don't forget there is the national cyber laws. There are also other laws in which some forms of actions on the social media had been or are being considered as criminal, and therefore under such laws people can be prosecuted. So don't say that government is going to prosecute people for using the social media so generic, so in such a generic sense. But the government definitely, in exercise of its constitutional powers, can penalize anybody whose activity on the social media, not necessarily Twitter, constitute larger national threat to our national interest, national objectives, and the national aspirations.
I was actually referring to the issue of the use of Twitter now, but let me quickly get these out. The diplomatic missions of Canada, the European Union, Ireland, the United Kingdom, as well as the United States, have also weighed in on this matter. Take a listen to what they said. They said that they are disappointed in the action of the government. They're claiming it's against the people's fundamental human rights of free expression and access to information, which is a pillar of democracy. Is this not a dent on the nation's image on the global stage?
No, it is not. Because whatever it is, we have ourselves first to preserve. There is a Nigeria first to preserve. There are Nigerian citizens' rights and responsibilities and duties and the security first to preserve before kowtowing to any international do-gooders.
So let me put some perspectives into the conversation. I'd like you to take a look at this. Perhaps some of the implications that this brings, economically speaking, or perhaps let me give you some quick facts about Twitter in Nigeria as it operates. Stands suspended. There are about 40 million Twitter users in Nigeria. Twitter usage accounts for about 25.52% of internet users in Nigeria. So invariably, what it then means is that it's about 1/4 of the 100 million internet users in Nigeria. So this is the enormity of the deprivation of these social media platform. But let's take a look at the cost impact of Twitter disruption on the Nigerian economy, and take a look at this. This is how much might be lost to the disruption of Twitter on the Nigerian economy. It will cost about 65 billion a month and about 2 million naira a day. That is according to netblocks.org. They have calculated, there is a barometer to calculate the loss and what this disruption could be. And so my question is, at the moment where the economy is recovering from a shock, unemployment rate is at 33%, exchange rate is about 400 naira to a dollar, and inflation rate is at 18%. Does this somewhat re-echoes what some Nigerians tag as an irrational decision of government?
It is not an irrational. Well, I am happy you said some Nigerians. Yes, but like I have told you, even if it is a collateral damage, the country would rather have this than to allow Twitter to worsen our security situation and cause mayhem that will lead to larger national tragedy. This is one. Two, are these losses that you have all computed now a one-way traffic, or does in any way Twitter also stand to lose anything from 40 million users in the country? Does Twitter stand to lose anything? Even if it does, what I am saying is the peace of this country, the security of this country, the well-being of this country, our national cohesion, the national unity that we have all been talking about and emphasizing at a time like this, I sense that cannot be quantified in material terms. We are talking about billions. We are talking about billions.
So let me ask you, Mr. Abari,
how do you compare all these larger national objectives, to a pittance like the billions you are talking about? No, please.
Are you aware that Nigerians who run their business on some of these social media platforms, and that the disruption might have cost them some money every day?
Of course, yes. Of course, yes. Of course, yes.
And
but what I'm still saying is that we still have to have a country before you can do any kind of business, whether it is an online business or it is offline business. You just have to have a country first.
So on a final note, Mr. Abari, this government has been accused of using this same social media platform to win elections or to campaign, part of their strategy, and now is clamping down on the same platform it used when it was reading out its campaign agenda. How do you describe this, or what do you tell to Nigerians, say to Nigerians who think that you've used it and now you think is now not working for you? Just in 30 seconds, if you may respond to that.
I take exception to your use of the word clamp down. I take exception to that. Nobody is clamping down on anybody. That is one. If the government had used the social media to win election, we are not far away from another set of elections in less than 2 years from now. The same social media can be used to sell the government out if Nigerians so wish. So this is just about it, and it's my response to it. And this is the beauty of constitutional democracy. The choice lies with the people, and not with Twitter. And if Twitter is just a conduit that can win the election for any political party, of course, there is no harm in that for anybody to use it. But I admit the fact that this government had used the social media to send out political messages which turned out to be to the advantage of the APC that is now ruling. And the same social media platforms will still be there when we go into the elections in 2023. So let's go, and by the time we get to the bridge, we cross it.
Mr. Garba Abari, the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, thank you so much for your time tonight on the program.
My pleasure.